Hello everyone and welcome to CadoinkStudios. I am Cadoink, joined today with Boisterous, and today, for the second time, we have spawning in the top right of Entombed Valley the lovely Arcanine, spawning as a blue Zerg, and his opponent is of course RCon, the red Protoss player. This is our second attempt at casting this game, as I didn't have my microphone on, and we went 13 whole minutes.
14-11.
14 whole minutes, something like that, where there was just nothing. And so, spoilers, we already know what's going to happen for the first like 13-14 minutes of this game. But yeah, so Archon, we'll do some recaps of what you missed from our first cast. Number one, Archon is a baller name.
Yeah, they missed my genuine surprise at Archon's name.
I literally said it. I said his name, and then it dawned on me that he's a Protoss player named Archon that spelled the letter R-C-O-N, and it just, like, Boisterous and I had like this thunderstruck moment where we were just like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
It was a group epiphany. It was quite impressive.
Yeah, and
that's
actually,
never happened to me
I
before.
could upload the video, and you could see half the epiphany. You could hear Boisterous talking to himself.
I had the better half of the epiphany.
He might have. He might have.
So you can just like slice out that little bit of audio where I'm just like, oh my god!
Yeah.
And then just add that on to the end of the video. That's okay.
Yeah, just put it in there. We also talked a little about the Xel'Naga, trial of the Xel'Naga, but that wasn't too interesting. Don't worry about that. Go check it out. Red Bull's awesome. I might buy a Red Bull tonight just to support them for supporting esports, even though I don't really like the drink. So there's that. And yeah, Arcanine's a baller who sent me this replay. He's a Zerg player sitting at around the gold platinum level. He's been playing a lot of Platies recently. And yeah, so he sent me this game. He actually sent both of us this game and asked if we could cast it, if we could co-cast it. And so we're doing that for him. So it looks like he is going to be putting down a hatchery at 15, pretty normal thing, while his opponent is doing a not normal thing and not going for that Forge Fast Expand. There are many players who say things like Forge Fast Expand or die trying. In fact, I think it was Naniwa who said that. So, interested to see a little bit more gateway play. Is that something that's kind of been poking into the metagame a little bit, but hasn't really caught on?
Yeah, gateway play, there's a reason it hasn't caught on in the metagame. It's far worse than Forge Fast Expanding, because if you can deny your opponent's first hatchery, Forge Fast Expanding is easily the best way to go for Protoss, because it allows you to expand very safely. You're very, you're basically completely protected from any sort of roach bust at the beginning of the game, because you can have sentries, you can get stalkers up reasonably.
Yeah.
You have an interesting position on this wall. Very odd. Usually you have them actually just spread it out across the top of the ramp, and then just deal with the destructible rocks when they start getting knocked down.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but it might have been In Control actually, or it might have been you, but this kind of diagonal wall tends to not be incredibly good. Sure, it will block off this natural very easily, but the problem you have is if you want to, you know what, I kind of don't know where I'm going with this sentence. I feel like it kind of restricts unit movement a little bit, whereas if you had this straight wall here, this kind of straight path, then you have this huge amount of space for your units to be running back and forth between your natural, your main, and your third.
That sounds like something I would say.
Yeah.
And I am, of course, very obsessed with walls, because I'm kind of weird like that.
Yeah, and so is In Control, consequently.
Oh, that's odd.
Yeah, Protoss player.
Maybe we're actually the same person.
You could be. Maybe you're secretly In Control who has changed his voice and just wants to help out a local co-caster.
Yep.
Caster.
Definitely. And I would definitely not help you out by just being in control and getting you all the views.
Yeah, right.
I'm kind of a dick like that.
Yeah. So actually we have a robo, so like a 2-gate, like 1-gate Forge, Nexus, 2nd gate robo kind of an odd build. Don't really know what to say about it. Looks like Arcanine's got the more reasonable thing here in this game. He's getting up actually a pretty quick lair. He doesn't really have that much tech, so he could be going for Mutas or Roach Infester, which is a little bit more common in PvZ.
I would say without the 2 extractors down at the natural, it's almost certainly Roach Infester.
Yeah, there's no way to get Mute on two gas.
Yeah. Especially. Actually, I don't know where I was going to go with that, so you can talk.
Alright, I will talk. So one thing that I am finding a hard time liking Arcon's build with is the sheer number of his units. He has 3. Sure, he can get some force fields out, but he doesn't really have that much. Like, he has the force fields, and that kind of delays, but if Arcanine were to do like a big 2-timing push, 2-gate push, Archon would be in a lot of trouble. He'd be in a whole heap of hurt. He only has 2 gateways. He got that Cybernetics core up, and he got Warp Gate, but he hasn't changed his gateways into Warp Gate, so he can't even Warp Gate right now.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. Oh, there we go.
And he does have an Immortal, so he can deal with Roaches alright, but a big Zergling swell will definitely shut that down. In fact, we have a big clump of Zerglings moving down to the bottom at this time, so maybe he will do a bust. He doesn't have a Baneling Nest. He did get that Roach Warren as well as 2 Evo Chambers and a 3rd. But still, he could poke up and just kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. The Immortal is actually going to be a very, very important unit in this game, just because the only really 2-base push you can do as Zerg is a Roach push. You very rarely see a Baneling Bust, and Baneling Busts are easily defended by Sentries anyway. So it's actually pretty smart to just go for Immortals. And you don't need all that many other units. Of course, you can't push if you just have Immortals, because you're just going to get owned by Zerglings. But they're good. They're extremely good as far as defensive purposes go. We have them going for an extremely late +1. It's almost at that point where it's like not even worth getting. You might as well double Forge, and then later just get double upgrades instead of just going for +1 armor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty late, especially considering the Forge timing. And it looks like +1 range attack and armor is going to be finished for Arcanine. And it looks like Archon's going to be moving across the map. Arcanine's so smart. It's going to spot it with the Zergling at the Watchtower and then send his Zerglings from behind to try to pick off an Immortal and maybe some Sentries. And we see the Zerglings moving up at this time. This Immortal is in so much trouble right now. Oh my goodness, he could get us around the Zergling surrounded on the Immortal. He does have a few Sentries, and oh, some great force fields going down, preventing the Immortal from dying. Wow. Archon with some great force field placement.
That was really awesome. Now, of course, 15 Roaches are out on the field, and they all have speed, so that's kind of rough. All of these Roaches will actually just be able to chase down the army and just continuously snipe them off.
Yeah, in fact, we have two Sentries dying at this time, and I imagine a Zealot as well, at the very least. And this is exactly what I was talking about, as we see 2 Nydus Worms come down right next to each other. Archon has no army. His army is so small. Just now getting some Stalkers. So we'll have to see how this does. Looks like the Stalkers are going to be moving forward and attacking these Roaches, so he will have to pull back. But look at this! The Nydus Worm finishing just in time, and he's able to zip away and go home. So cool. Arcanine loves this Nydus network play. He's told me very many times. Yeah. Very, very excited to see him use it.
Yeah, Nydus network plays are just awesome in general, because if you really think about it, it's kind of like the Zerg Warp Gate almost. Because it allows you to drop units anywhere in the map that you can build one of these buildings, and it's slightly better because you don't need like a probe to be positioned there beforehand. All you need is an Overlord or any way to get vision, really. So if you're in like a 2v2, and Cadoink, we should try out this strat someday. Just be in like a 2v2 and have me Nydus network into somebody's base after you scan it. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah, that'd be so sweet. Looks like a huge Roach force coming down and crushing this army of Archon, killing one of the Immortals immediately. Stalkers will have to blink forward, but the blink has put these Immortals all by themselves, and they died so quickly. So tragic for Archon. He's going to have to run his Stalkers away, and now Arcanine is most certainly in a very commanding position in this game.
Alright, Cadoink, I think I'm a bit off. Could you give me the time you're
Yeah,
at?
I am at 13:50 at this time. Just now about to hit 14 minutes. And we have this Stalker dying. Another 2 more Nydus networks coming down, it looks like. Never seen a Nydus queued, that's kind of cool. And so, Arcanine going to be pushing with a nice little Roach Zergling Force. We'll have to see how it does. There are a good amount of Stalkers with Blink, but only one Immortal, and so these Roaches are going to be very, very strong. And wow, I hear, what is that? I hear tons and tons of Nydus Worms. Where are all of them? They have one at the third. While the army is trying to destroy the destructible rocks, we have one over here. Looks like we have one all the way over here in this corner of the map. Very, very cool.
Yeah, Nydus networks are just going down everywhere, which is pretty awesome. It opens up a lot of flanking gameplay that you can do as a Zerg player. And if you just look at Arcanine's play, and I think this is just like a side note of him having to go for these Nydus worms, is that he has crazy vision with all these overlords. They are spread out all over the map, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, he sees everything. He knows there are no hidden bases. The only chance of a hidden base is this bottom right where this overlord is just barely not in range of it, but I mean, come on. That would be some crazy unlucky play from Arcanine if Archon built a base there. And it looks like Archon's just kind of turtling up. He's getting a Stargate up. He's got a Templar Archives, he's got a Stargate and a Twilight Council, he's got all sorts of tech, but just now getting a sizable army and moving forward. And look at this Roachling army that looks in trouble. Could just running the Nydus Worm, but I guess decided not to. As more of them pop up, oh, we have one in the main of Archon at the top left of his base, and he will be able to send units.
It's not scouted.
Yeah.
Is he going to use it, though? I mean, it looks like Archon just isn't even stopping. This is kind of like what you do with Mutas, is you just push across the map, and that harassment can't really happen. Yeah. Because they need all of their units to defend, which is kind of what Arcanine is in a situation like that right
but
now.
Look at these 2 Nydus networks reinforcing the Roach Zergling army so he can finally engage this. Looks like he's doing quite a bit of damage, but the Immortals just crushing these Roaches, and Arcanine in a little bit of trouble here, managing to pick off some Immortals that are there to do nothing. And yeah, it looks like Arcanine definitely taking the better engagement in this fight, and Arcanine will be forced to go back home and rally with some spine crawlers, but in the meantime he can still use this Nydus network if he wants, maybe pulling Archon's army back. But no, Archon's just going to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that Archon hasn't worked in like 1 or 2 Zealots just to deal with that Nydus Worm, because that's not really a sizable hit to the army. And we do have an engagement happening here with Archon swinging in with the Roaches, but there's just so many Immortals.
Yeah, the Immortals actually are taking a lot of hits as they're in the front of the army, which is a horrible place for them to be. And so Arcanine's going to be able to pick off all 4 of them, and now the Stalker army is incredibly naked, and they will have to run home. I would love it if Arcanine just pulled back at this time and made use of that Nydus network inside of Archon's main.
And this kind of looks like that really old like beta video of the Zerg, or even I think it was an alpha video where they were like showing off the Zerg, and this is kind of what happened, where like they just had like part of it was just them springing Nydus networks over and over again, and now this is kind of what's happening, is that all these Nydus networks are just getting put to use, and we have the Roaches finally getting up into the main base and being very annoying.
Yeah, I know exactly what video you're talking about. It was so awesome. Arcanine in the main now trying to destroy some probes if he can, but nice little Stalker Zealot force going to move in and take care of these Roaches, no problem. But in the meantime, a ton of Zerglings screaming in from Arcanine, getting into the natural, going to try to take off this cannon. He should just go for the probe line, and more Roaches from the Nydus network. Oh, this is just such bad news for Archon, and now Arcanine can just pull back when these Stalkers have Blink. And yeah, Arcanine looking great right now.
Yeah, this is just such an impressive way of using these Nydus networks. He's just using them really to pull his army apart. It's kind of like the Zerg version of drops, where you can't really deal with it fast enough. It's just very confusing. It's very fast-paced. It requires a lot of APM to deal with. We have some probes trying to kill a Nydus Worm at the 3rd base, and they are not going to be able to take it out as Roaches do pour out.
Yeah, and he can't even build a Nexus because the creep is there, and this is like the best way to get creep at your opponent's base. It's like one of the best ways. It'd be so cool if he sent a queen through the Nydus network and put down a creep tumor. Cream tumor. Don't know what that is. A creep tumor, and put down and then just pulled back. And we have Arcanine going into the front of Arcon's base once again, picking off that forge and some more pylons.
Is going to be just running around trying to clean up as many of these Nydus swarms as possible. But Arcanine with a couple of Nydus networks can just keep planting those down as fast as they're coming, as fast as they're getting killed.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be bouncing back and forth. It's so nice that he has this creep here. If he comboed this with good creep spread, oh man, his creep would be absolutely unstoppable. And it looks like Arcanine taking up a 4th base as well. And look at this. Most of his bases, actually all of his bases, have Nydus networks to them. So this is a really fantastic way to deal with harassment. Oh no, my 3rd is being attacked by zealots. Good thing I'm standing right next to a Nydus worm that can connect me to my 3rd very, very easily. So this is a great way of using Nydus networks. I don't know how cost effective it is, but it's so practical and so useful that I want to keep seeing this sort of play come out of Arcanine.
Yeah, actually,
okay. So we do have some Void Rays in this army. Arcanine's going to be moving forward, but looks as though there aren't enough Void Rays to really make a difference. These Zealots are crumbling very fast. The Zerglings in Arcanine's army are not in a good position, so he is going to be pulling back as those Roaches don't really want to engage the Stalkers just yet, and now they will. Now that they're a little bit further back, they can be reinforced in a great concave by Arcanine, just completely crushing these Stalkers. And now he will be moving up into the main, and there are only 3 Void Rays. The Void Rays are going to take a very, very long time to kill all of these Roaches, especially now that there are 2 more Nydus networks coming up inside of Arcon's base. So many things falling at this time. Roaches to the Void Rays, Stalkers to the Roaches. Looks like this Nexus will indeed go down, as well as these Nydus worms. At least the first one will go down. And 2 more popping up. There are now 3 in total in Arcon's base. Nexus does finally die. Man, Arcanine just in a huge commanding position, taking out more of these pylons, shutting down this natural that really still has minerals here. And
Archon has 14
oh my
supply.
Goodness, 14 supply, and I'm sure the bulk of that is in Void Rays, as they take, what, like 3-4 supply?
Yep,
My
it's 3. It's like 5 workers.
Look at this, a Nydus worm in the main because he had vision. These Roaches are getting in a 2nd Nydus in the main. This is just absolutely crazy, as everything is getting crushed. And there Archon saying interesting play, just making comments on it. Not fond of it. Yeah, I wouldn't be fond of it either if it was happening to me. And Arcanine, of course, very pleased with himself.
This kind of inspired me to go play ladder again.
Yeah, you should definitely play ladder. I've been playing ladder a lot more recently.
I just want some people.
Yeah.
It's always fun. It works in like probably 50% of the games that you use it in, but when it does work, it's just like the most entertaining thing ever.
Oh, absolutely. Nydus in the 3rd, try to snipe off this Nexus. It looks like he will indeed. No, maybe? Oh, it's so close. Yeah, he's going to get it. And now Archon is left to 1 Nexus, but his base is filled with Roaches, and more Roaches streaming down the center of the map, which is funny because they don't need to. They have Nydus worms. And Archon saying, not bad. So, yeah, very interesting game here.
He doesn't think it's all that effective. Well, I mean, you just won the game, but
yeah,
not
that strategy may have worked against me. That doesn't mean it's a good strategy. Was an interesting change of pace, though. I like that. Archon kind of having a good spirit and then leaving the game. Sadly, not GGing. But yeah, regardless, very cool play by Arcanine. Thank you so much for sending us this replay. It was a joy to cast. And so, Boisterous, where can people find you and your videos?
If anybody wants to check out any of the other videos I've produced, you can head over to youtube.com/user/boisteroussc2.
And if you'd like to check out some of my own videos, you can of course subscribe to CadoinkStudios at youtube.com/user/CadoinkStudios. do a lot of pro games, do a lot of co-commentaries, things like that. And a lot of community replays, and if you'd like to send one of those in, you can send that into CadoinkReplays@gmail.com. And of course, if this is all just information streaming into one ear and out the other, just go to the description bar and you should be able to find everything you need there. So anyway, it was a pleasure casting this game for you. I'm Cadoink, and we will see you guys
Boisterous.
later.